Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Lewis Speaks 2023, and today I want to talk to you all about masculine trauma. You know, I work with clients every day who identify as men, and a lot of the men that I serve, oftentimes I'll notice a pattern where they come to session and they'll use the session to process certain unhealed wounds, and I see a lot of transference. I definitely provide a safe space, and I think this is the reason why they feel comfortable exploring these feelings. But what I've noticed is that there is this underlying hostility. I've noticed this oppositional behavior. I've noticed almost this competitive, challenging type of dynamic. And I realize that a lot of it is transference. They're transferring all the anger, the frustration that they have towards their caretakers or towards the men in their lives onto me in an effort to, I guess, process and heal from it and negotiate. Um, I'm realizing that in general, there exists a lot of anger towards men. This is one of the reasons why a lot of men have just shirked the responsibility of caring about other men, because they realize that when you care about other men, when you, as a man, care about other men, you open yourself up to a lot of transference, a lot of anger, animosity. It's like you're almost expected to pay for the sins of their fathers. You become a god in their eyes. And if they have a complex relationship with God, if they have a complex relationship with their father or other men in their lives, you will oftentimes be the beneficiary of that hostility, that anger, that oppositional behavior, that competitiveness, that challenging behavior. And I realize that a lot of men they just don't care. They just stop caring, because I realize that as a clinician, I provide a safe space. And sometimes when you provide a safe space, people see that as an invitation to exercise their demons, to be destructive, to be disrespectful. And so you definitely have to set the boundary. But often that boundary is met with resistance, defiance, anger, frustration, and violations. People will definitely test your boundary, and when you hold them accountable, they will get angry. And so that's a natural, once again, that is a natural part of the healing process, dealing with that defensive behavior. But at the same time, it's never really easy to deal with, especially when you're trying to do your work as well. It brings up and kicks up feelings for you as well. So I think that there's some counter transference there as well between the clinician and the client. And so I'm definitely aware of these dynamics. But I also realize that as men, we don't trust each other. The male clients that I treat, oftentimes they will not defer to my expertise. They will not take my advice because they either feel like I'm trying to tell them what to do, or they feel as though it's not to be trusted. And once again, this is their work. They're projecting their own issues onto the therapeutic experience. And so I understand that that's natural. It's natural for them to behave this way. But once again, as I mentioned before, it's never easy to deal with. Because for one, you have to bust through that denial, that resistance, that anger in order to provide that healing relationship. And as I mentioned before, if your relationship, your therapeutic relationship, is not built on trust, you really have nothing with the client. And so it's trying to build that trust, and trying to foster a space that is honest, that is a holding environment, but at the same time, challenging. And so I've just been seeing that dynamic a lot with the men, that I treat. And I'm just wondering, we as men really, really struggle to relate to one another. We don't trust one another. There exists this very, very antagonistic relationship that we have even with our own masculinity. I think the false definitions that we have about what a real man is definitely problematic. I think a lot of times we as men are defined as men by what we can do for others: provider, protector, leader, you know? These are all roles in the service of other people. But my thing is this: who are you outside of the roles that you occupy? Who are you outside of those roles? My thing is this: in me researching my own masculinity and my own history with my masculinity, I realized that I have a displaced masculinity. I realize that I still am learning how to navigate what it means to be a man, you know? And it's hard. It's hard because there's so much expectation that is placed on your back. You are created in God's image, therefore you are seen as a God. You are a man, you are imperfect, you are human, but yet and still we as men are not allowed to be imperfect. We have to always be the leaders. We have to always know things. We have to always know where to go, be decisive, this. It's a lot of pressure on us as men. And we really don't have safe spaces to be or even get tenderness. I realize that I'm 6'2". I am Black, Latino, male. I realize that oftentimes that comes with expectations. That also comes with these core limiting beliefs that people have about what I should be doing and what I need. Oftentimes people don't see my needs. If I don't articulate those needs, they don't see them. And even when I do articulate them, they don't hear them because I don't fit into the description that they have. They're biased. They have this bias, this internal bias about Black men, what it means to be Black. If they're white, they think that we're super predators. They think that we are uneducated. They think that we are sexual objects. There's so many stereotypes about my Blackness that I have to encounter, you know, with members of my own race. Even they've internalized racism and they've internalized bias to the point where they don't trust my expertise. They think that because I'm not talking a certain way that I'm not really Black, or they think that I'm trying to act white, or they think that there's so many different stereotypes and beliefs, or they don't trust my information that I'm giving. They have to verify it. I see that happening a lot. And people don't understand that there are microaggressions even within members of your own race. They've internalized the bias. They have adopted the plantation mentality, you know? And so you have to contend with that as well. There's just so many things as a Black man that I have to deal with. And when I'm thinking about masculinity as a whole, there's so many things that we as men have got to recover from. For one, we have to recover from those false definitions of masculinity. You know, we're expected to live up to these social norms. And it's killing us. It's killing us. We're socialized to be stoic, strong, never cry, never show emotion, never, never be lost, you know? And oftentimes when you are these things, there is this silent belief that you are somehow less of a man. And that's what we need to really, really just unearth and uproot. But I think that this is enduring. This is definitely a work in progress. I think that while people have made efforts to understand the anatomy of a man, I still think, the emotional anatomy, not the physical, the emotional anatomy of a man and the psychological anatomy of a man, they still have yet to really, really accept it. You know? And I just think that this is the problem. This is what's keeping us stuck in these loops and these patterns. And this is why this war that exists even between men and women. I think we as men have yet to really, really come into our masculinity and our divine masculinity and really, really just own that role and see ourselves not by what we are able to give everybody else, but as individuals, people deserving of love simply for being, not based on performance, not based on what we can do to please and appease other people. Who are you outside of the roles that you occupy? Outside of the role of father, uncle, cousin, nephew, worker. Who are you outside of those roles? Because there comes a point where men feel like they're inadequate when they're not able to produce or they're not able to do anything because they've gotten so used to thinking that their value comes from what they're able to produce. And that's not true. Our value should be more intrinsic, based on who we are, based on our character. Our character, not on what we can give everybody else, because you'll be in this perpetual state of giving out, giving out, giving out. And then eventually what ends up happening is the resentment builds. And I see that with a lot of men. A lot of men are resentful because they don't feel as though they're loved for who they are. They're loved for what they can produce and what they can give to everybody else. And that's not really being loved. So my thing is this: who are you outside of the roles that you occupy? My fellow men, who are you? Because we have a wounded masculinity. I hate the word and the expression toxic masculinity. I hate that because it gives men no compassion. It gives them no compassion. I prefer wounded masculinity because wounded means that there's an opportunity for healing. You know? We have a wounded masculinity that really needs a space to heal. And we as men have got to do our work too. We can't say, well, this is my wound. This is it. I'm going to go out there and take it out on everybody, because just because you're wounded, that does not give you a license to hurt other people. If anything, that charges you with the responsibility of healing. That's necessary. Please know that. A lot of people feel that because they've been abused, hurt, they have a license to go out and hurt other people. No. You have the responsibility, for one, of healing yourself, and also sharing the tools that you have learned and picked up along the way, sharing those with others. And so we as men have got to emerge from out these shadows. Because I think as a man in 2023, we have got a lot on us. We have got to pay for the sins of our fathers. We are expected to basically be the men that other people were not. We're expected to be all the man or all the men in the world. Your daddy wasn't in your life. Now you're charging me with the responsibility of being your daddy. Now I got to pay for his mistake. And oftentimes this is why a lot of men check out. They feel like this is too much weight on me. This is too much responsibility. You're expecting me to pay for the mistakes of another man? That's not fair. And we should not be made to pay for the mistakes of another man. We should never be. Nobody should ever be forced to pay for the mistakes of somebody else. Nah, that's not our bag. And so my thing is this: we as men have got to heal. We have got to learn how to set boundaries. And we have got to do it for ourselves, not for anybody else. Do it for yourself. You have really got to heal for you first. Heal that wounded little boy that lives inside of you, so that way that boy can grow up into a healthy man. That's important. So I hope this video was helpful. Please, by all means, share your experiences with me. I'm definitely here to listen. I want to know what your experiences as men, you know, are. Also, if you are a woman, what advice would you give? And what suggestions would you offer too? What is your experience with dealing with wounded men? You know, what do you think might be helpful? You know, because we're here together. We as men need each other. We as women need each other too. You know, we are all everybody, to be honest. Men, women, we all got estrogen in us. We got testosterone. You know, so my thing is this: we need some assistance. We need to know what's going on, especially with men. Men, we need each other. We need to lean into one another without it calling into question our sexuality, our sexual orientation. without being made to feel as though we're less of a man because we have different definitions of masculinity, you know? So I think that that's important. We really need to just come together and be able to safely lean into each other without being assaulted with just unrealistic expectations and just ridicule. Because this is not about being critical. This is not about criticizing. This is not about judging. This is about healing. And sometimes we need to have these difficult conversations in order to heal, because nothing gets better as long as we continue to avoid the difficult conversations. We need to come face to face and deal with this. So I hope this video was helpful. And once again, please leave your comments. Much appreciation. Peace, y'all.